Today I'm going to teach you how to make plaid on Procreate. Okay, so first we're going to set up our canvas. I just select a square canvas and then I increase the size to 3,600 pixels by 3,600 pixels and increase the DPM to 300. I just recently changed the way that I make plaid, and this is how I do it now. It comes out a little better. I copied the diagonal technique from, I think her name's Rebecca Flannery, and I'll put her link to her channel in the description. So first we're just going to make a repeat diagonal pattern. So you're going to make a black block, and I usually have it around 400, and then I increase it to 6,000 just so that way I know that it will cover the diagonals. And then I realized I accidentally widened it, so I just went with it though. You're going to want to make sure that your magnetic and snapping is on for this whole project. So first you're going to take your block, you're going to center it on your canvas, and then once you have it centered, you're just going to go down and you're going to click rotate to 45 degrees. Then you're going to duplicate it, and this will be the next parallel line. And you want to make sure that your settings are to the nearest. You're going to duplicate the line again, and that will become your bottom line. Wait for those yellow lines. I rename my lines just so I can keep track of them. You don't have to do this. Then we're going to duplicate the top line just so that way it comes to, and then I realize I didn't get it all the way. Duplicate the bottom. Now we just have one to use, one layer to use. We're going to repeat that. We're going to combine it down, change the size to half, and we're going to duplicate it. Combine those layers. And we're going to do this several times, and I think I typically do them 4 or 5 times, just depending on the how wide the lines look, because you want it to look like a weave as much as possible. Obviously this is digital, so it's not going to have the same texture, but I think you can get it to where it appreciates the texture of a woven tartan. Okay, I'm going to do this a few more times. We will speed this up. Just keep doing this a couple more times. You need it fairly small because you are trying to sort of replicate a weave. Another one. And that looks good. And so you want to make your black lines white. I've ran into some issues where some colors have an issue going on black when you're trying to clip it. So we clip the black lines white. And I don't remember why I need to do this, but that's just been my standard practice. So now we're going to fill it, and we need to fill the whole square. Just with varying patterns of different widths. So I'm going to start off with this green. I'm going to do it half the space of the square, and I don't really like the look of it when you use a stripe that big and it's all the way over on the other side of the square. So I usually put another color on the side of it just to give it some space, because that's just because your finished result will look a little weird if that color is there. So anyways, I usually use the same color on one side as I do the other. Sometimes that's not the case. Maybe it's just like the value. Sometimes I try to go with the same value just to not make it look so boxy. I'm adding a little complementary color for the green just to give it some dimension. And then I thought to myself, oh, I like that. And then I realized I have the gray. It sometimes makes it easier when you have a stripe that you can center another stripe on. So sometimes I do that. And then you need to always make sure that the stripes are either at least overlapping or touching. You don't want any space. That will come through in your final product, and then you'll have these like weird gaps of space without color. So if you save it as a JPEG, it will just be white, and if you save it as a PNG, then it will just be translucent. Here we're filling up the whole space. And I originally thought I was going to put gray on the other side, but I decided to go for a lighter value green just to give it a little bit more contrast and interest. I'll show you how I do that here in just a moment. And I don't always like a lot of just like wide stripes. I think varying stripe widths make it a much more interesting pattern. And I like in some of the older tartans that I've seen where it's like there's less saturation in the dye, so I try to like, and sometimes I experiment, but I try to keep it like minimal. Then I'm just going to evenly space that blue stripe. This is where I decided to go for another green, just to make it a little bit more interesting. Look for and sometimes instead of flattening it all at once, I put all the stripes in a group, so that way then I'm going to duplicate it, and then I'm going to have to flatten that because I'm actually going to clip the top layer. So to be able to use clipping mask, it has to be a flattened layer, and then I just the bottom one I tilt 90 degrees, and you technically could be done at this point because you have a repeatable square, but I think it like looks better if you make the square smaller and do like 4 of those together, and then you can really see that you actually do have a plaid, a tartan pattern. Perfect. And for whatever reason, I have kept it as a group at this point. I'm just going to merge both of them and then duplicate it. And that's pretty much it. Now you have your plaid. I hope this is helpful, and I hope I see a lot more plaid.